time of me writing this, yesterday, Behavior released the patch notes for the upcoming mid-chapter patch, where we're seeing a ton of changes to perks, as well as nerfs to the Hillbilly, the Twins, and the subject of today's video, the Skull Merchant. This killer has been hated for a long time, honestly. Since she released, we have been expecting a huge change to her. Quite frankly, her initial rework was not something that satisfied the player base, and here we are, now on her second rework this coming patch, and things aren't looking good for Scully. As you've all seen, her scan lines have been cut in half, meaning that avoiding a drone is very easy. Essentially, this patch has soft deleted the Skull Merchant from the game. This has caused the Skull Merchant community to go into an uproar, justifyingly so. A lot of the DBD community, however, has been celebrating the huge nerfs to the killer due to just how unpopular she really is. Today, I want to talk about if the celebration is justified or just cruel to the people who enjoy playing as her. The Skull Merchant released on March 7th, 2023. Her original kit is one of the most hated things we have ever seen. She was able to place drones next to generators, which essentially told her exactly where she needed to go to prevent the generators from being done. The Skull Merchant was the absolute very best at the 3-gen strategy. Her only competition was the Knight, who also could 3-gen extremely well with the help of his guards. Allow me to briefly explain why this is all relevant to the Skull Merchant over a year later. If I'm being brutally honest, this was the worst designed killer in the game. She could consistently drag matches out to the 2-hour limit before the server closed. There was a small drama where a Skull Merchant player took Team Eternal to a 53-minute match. If you're unaware, Team Eternal was one of the best teams in the world. And a random Skull Merchant player who had less than 1,000 hours in the game, which in Dead by Daylight is not a lot, took them to a 53-minute long match. If that wasn't a problem, I don't know what is. She was swiftly reworked into what we have now, going from a gen-defending monster to an anti-loop area denial killer. A lot of the hate she sees today comes from the gen-defending iteration of the killer. Following her rework, the initial response was that the killer was much weaker. I personally remember a favorite streamer of mine celebrating that she had been pushed into the D tier so that nobody would play her. But then, people started playing her. And then, things changed. Slowly but surely, the complaints started to pour in. The player base started to understand that the Skull Merchant was still annoying and much stronger at actually chasing than she originally was. After months and months, Behavior announced a change was coming in the future, and here we are now, at the end of all things. This next PTV, we have seen that the changes and that are coming to the Skull Merchant, and to be absolutely honest with you, things are not looking very good for her. I won't go over the patch notes because you can either read those yourself or find another video of someone reading the notes. I just want to give my thoughts on what is happening and what I think is bad about it. So, she's always been an extremely unpopular killer, but to see what's happening, it's a bit shocking to see just how hard Behavior is going at it. I'm also a bit disappointed to see just how happy the community at large is over this. People have been shaming and mocking people who main the killer, and it's very disappointing to see. I really do hope that these Skull Merchant changes are either walked back some, or her proper rework comes much sooner than I would anticipate. The issue is that Behavior very rarely will give a proper rework to a killer once they give them a kit. The last killer to get a proper rework from the ground up was arguably the Doctor. Every other rework has either been a change to the existing power. So what if Behavior just reworks the Skull Merchant in the same way they have the other killers? Well, then you're right back to the issue we currently have. Honestly, it's a very complex balancing issue, and I'm not sure where we'll end up with this killer. But, fortunately, Skull Merchant mains, I wouldn't be hopeless, because I do seriously doubt that this is the last time we'll see her. And just a thought that quickly popped into my head now, Skull Merchant's had her time in the sun. I don't think we need to have her as strong as she is now, or as strong as she was especially back in the past. But it would be nice if we could find a nice little middle spot for her. We don't want to see her get reworked as much as someone like Legion has been. The Skull Merchant is extremely controversial, so I'm expecting a lot of people to disagree with me, but I really do think that this was heavy-handed and unnecessary. I really wish that they would have found a nice middle ground for her. I feel bad for the people that play her, but I guess it is what it is. I do understand that she was hated, so we'll just see what comes next for her. As I said, though, Skull Merchant mains, I wouldn't be too upset for long. I'm sure your killer will be fixed soon. She's just essentially getting soft deleted right now. They can't just properly delete her because people paid money for her. But as for now, I would just find a new killer. Maybe play the Knight. People hate him almost as much. Well, this was just a quick video. I wanted to get to you guys relatively fast, but just one more time, here are my thoughts on all the changes coming to Skull Merchant. It addresses the issues people had with her, which is good. However, she was giving nothing in exchange. There was no shift in power, just an outright brutal nerf, and I think this was heavy-handed and a bad way to go about all of this. Okay, with all that said, my name is Kuhssir. I hope you liked the video. Please let me know what you think of the Skull Merchant below. Be cordial with people, please. I'm sure we won't all agree on this, but come on, don't be a dick. Leave a like if you did. Please subscribe if you're interested in more of my content, and I will hopefully see you next time.